I suppose the other area that is going to require transformation is how we think about our pedagogy, right? And I know that often we've had resistances to the notion of kind of externship as being, well, we're the university, we're doing the teaching, and obviously that changes over time. That's changed over time, and it's something that's kind of institution specific. But much of the value of this work, I take it, is going to be in the pedagogic mission and in the collaborations with the students and getting the students inspired to do this work. And I assume that too is going to require kind of a rethinking of how we approach our own curriculum as well. And of course, it doesn't mean getting rid of portions of the curriculum that are necessarily more academic in its nature, but finding the ways to bridge from the core, right, to social justice. And I know that many of us on campus are working on that, but that's another major area. I don't know if any of you have any thoughts about that. Or if Lee, if you have any thoughts about kind of the pedagogic mission and how it's changed.
Just add quickly one thing, which is I've always felt that it is a responsibility of the institution to help faculty who want to gain the experiences they need to be more engaged with real problems in the classroom. Mm-hmm. That is, I mean, take something like, I'm sorry to raise global when they see.
No.
Just,
well, you know, on that one, I was just thinking that we're fortunate to be in New York City,
yeah.
where the local is the global, kind of.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, okay.
So you know, one of my views is that we have, as an intellectual community in the United States, not committed enough intellectual resources, broadly, not speaking to universities, to the study of China. I think this is true generally in the world outside of Europe and so on, but just take China. I mean, China, what happens to China, I say repeatedly, is one of the most important questions for the world in the next in the century. So what do we know about China? And how broad is our expertise about this phenomenon? And I think when one looks at oneself critically, you have to say we're not doing a very good job as an intellectual community in addressing that. So, but faculty don't just on your own. You don't just say I'm going to learn China. I'm going to. Right. So you need to help in lots of ways, and I think this is true in the just societies. We need to find ways institutionally to help faculty to do things that will affect the teaching.
Mm-hmm. And I think about also just the classroom itself, and that when we teach, we are teaching students who live in the world with all of its attendant pressures and realities. Many of you probably read the piece by Casey Gerald that was in the Sunday Times, where he talked about the tragedy of the T.M. Landry School, right. And he was my student. I'm very proud, so we always love to brag on our students, but to talk about what he said that was so important, I think, is that he said, first of all, the way that we talk about this T.M. Landry tragedy is to think that students either have an up from slavery narrative, right. That goes to glory, or it absolutely explodes. And he said that the goal, the way we want to be taught, is the goal should be to create free and whole people, not just great people. Free and whole people. And so, I think about, what is the ethic, what is the love that you bring to teaching our students and to those micro communities where he talked in the piece about another student of mine who took his life, someone who was taught and loved and mentored, but who lived with tremendous, tremendous pressures while he was trying to learn. So, I say all that to talk about sort of the human and about love in the big sense, and how it animates what it means to come together and make community. And I don't exactly know how you measure that. I don't exactly know how you look for that, but I know that it has everything to do with the success of our work.
And just before you turn it out, in terms of the classroom, I mean, we're talking about making it possible for students to go out into the world, but it's also, I think, in this conversation about transforming the university, is bringing the world into our classroom. Who's seated around that table that changes the dynamic, changes the conversation, and changes the experience of learning as well. So.
And we're really fortunate to have, as among many of the incredible projects that we have here, the Justice in Education project that focuses on that and also brings justice in education scholars to campus after they've re-entered from